Welcome to Real Money Talks, how to make money, manage money, and invest money. Your Real Money Talks host, Laurel Langmeyer, gets straight to the point about what it actually takes to make money and build lasting wealth in today's changing economic climate. If you're ready to get the financial results you've always dreamed of, keep listening. Real Money Talks is the right place for you. And now here's your host, Laurel Langmeyer.
Welcome back to Laurel's Real Money Talks. We're here with Steve Lemus. So Steve has graduated from our group. He came to work with me right out of the University of Reno, Nevada, and was in graphics and journalism, and has been on the team for years and years, and has become quite the expert. He leads our FastCast coaching calls, and he's with us today to talk about AV basics. When you are at an event, what are the steps that you have to do? And when you're in a crisis, what are your workarounds? So Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Laurel, for having me on your podcast. I appreciate this so much. And just to give you a little bit more background, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Steve Lemus. I've been working with Laurel and Live Out Loud for about 5 years now, so it's been a really fun run. I've been out to all the events, the preview events, the 3 days to cash events that are now the off Wall Street assets events, and some outside stages. Traveled all over. And it's been a privilege to work and do these events. I've learned so much from Laurel, so thank you once more for doing that. Now let's get into the podcast. So today I kind of want to go over some audiovisual basics with you, and I want to break it up into pretty much 3 different parts. So the first part is knowing what to have, what equipment to use, and I'll go through some brands that we use, different types of microphones, and I'll touch on PA speakers. I'll touch on using hotel sound versus bringing in your own stuff. The second part I want to cover is getting to know the layout, or just pretty much the lay of the land. When you're going into a venue, whether it be a hotel, whether it be a meeting room, chamber, a restaurant, even it doesn't matter where you're going. Just knowing what to have, knowing what equipment you need to use, and being able to decide if you need power or not. And then the third part of audiovisual basics is essentially reading the room, getting to interact with the people, getting into choosing the right kind of music for the ambience, getting to, definitely watching the speaker and managing the mixer, managing the soundboard, and just overall, becoming the orchestrator of the room. Being the audio-visual person, you may subliminally think that there's not a lot of art to it, but you really have to sort of keep everything on task, make sure that the speaker's microphone is working, making sure that the audio levels are good, making sure you're not getting any sort of pops, static and things of that nature in the microphone. So with that being said, let's get into part 1, and that's equipment. So what type of equipment should you look for, where to buy, that kind of a thing. I'll start off with probably one of the simplest layouts, which would be our preview events. And these are our one-day events where typically, we would either get a hotel venue. It would be some sort of a meeting room. Sometimes it'll be like a larger boardroom, or in some cases it could be a restaurant. They have those meeting rooms and things like that. What I do almost 99% of the time, unless the information is provided to me. First thing is just call the venue, see what they have, see what they offer, and see if it costs extra to get it. Most of the time what will happen is if you end up booking the venue, if it's a restaurant, if it's a hotel, if it's a meeting room or something like that, depending on the amount of people that you're going to have there, they're going to let you use the stuff because they're either getting something out of it, right? You're ordering food for the restaurant, so there's a bunch of people, the bill's going to be big, and they're going to be fine with it. You're paying for the hotel, that kind of thing. In some instances, it's going to be completely separate. So for example, if you're going to book with a hotel, most likely you're going to work with PSAV, which is an outside audiovisual company that most hotels contract with. Met a lot of great people through PSAV. They're very helpful, 24/7 round the clock. So definitely great guys. Not always the cheapest, but definitely great to have. In terms of the equipment that you want to have, just basic stuff on hand for anything at all. You want a good handheld microphone. You also want a good lapel microphone. And, with a lapel microphone, you could also go over the ear. But those are the two general microphones you want to have. You want to have a handheld microphone. You want to have a lapel microphone. And you want to have a mixer, a travel mixer, something small. Obviously, if you have something a little bit bigger, by all means, whatever, whatever you feel more comfortable with, definitely go with that. So you want a handheld microphone, you want a lapel microphone, you want a good mixer, you want a couple of XLR cables, to actually run back everything up. You want to have a power strip, because no matter where you're going to be plugging in multiple items. So you definitely want to have that on hand as well. Now here's the kind of part B to that side of it is, most hotels, most venues will have some sort of a sound port for you to plug into. So if you go to the hotels, they're going to have some sort of a panel for you to just plug in your mixer, XLR cable style, or it might be like an auxiliary import, like a headphone jack that you have to, plug into. So you can use the sound system of the house. 80% of the time, the house system is actually really good audio, so you really don't have to worry about anything there. But I'll tell you, that 10% of the time that the house sound really sucks, it's really going to mess with your vibe. So I always call ahead first and just say, hey, what's your experience with groups in there? Have they complained about the sound? Just be transparent with them. You're talking to people. So have your microphone, the handheld microphone, have a lapel over the ear, have the mixer. Have a power strip for your mixer. And then if the house sound isn't available, obviously you can rent. But, you might have to consider getting some PA speakers with stands, so put those in the front of the room. In terms of cabling and what to get and brands and things like that, I personally like to use the Shure brand, Shure, just because they're reliable. I've been using them for over 5 years, never had any problems at all with it. The cool thing about Shure products and Shure microphones is that they have a frequency finder depending on where you are in the area. So you can literally put in the address. It'll tell you what frequencies you need to go onto so you don't have any disturbances in your reception. The only downside to that is if you're traveling outside of the country. In Canada, obviously it won't work over there. You're just going to have to kind of wing it with the frequencies and the bands. But if you're in the US, all you have to do is Google for the Shure frequency finder. It'll pull up a page. You put in your address, you put in what type of unit you're using, which, for smaller events is probably like a BLX unit. Again, this is audio-visual basics, not a we're not doing a full-blown concert here, and we're not doing, a crowd over 100 people, 150 people in the room. So, Shure, in terms of microphones, I love it personally. Me personally, that's my personal preference, my personal opinion. So I definitely recommend that. In terms of having PA speakers and things like that, Mackie is definitely a great system to use. We recently got some 12-inch thumpers and two 12-inch thumpers with stands, and those things are just they're sturdy. They'll travel. You can check them in as luggage at the airport. You can ship them. They're gonna take that beating, and then they're gonna perform very well. In terms of the mixer, same thing goes for the mixer. A Mackie mixer is definitely really good to have. We have a couple actually. We have like a smaller 8-channel mixer that we travel with, fits in a backpack. And then we have a larger one, which is more of a 12. I think it's a 12-channel. Might be a 14-channel mixer, which we use for bigger events. We can get into that later. But for the purpose of this podcast, I really want to stick to the audio-visual basics. So just to recap on part 1, you definitely want to have a good handheld mic. You want to have a good lapel or over-the-ear microphone. You definitely want to have a mixer, power strip to go with your mixer. And then, again, check with the hotel or your venue and see if they have a good sound system over the speakers in the roof. Otherwise, you're going to have to look into some PA speakers and things like that. One of the other things too that a lot of people really struggle with is, let's say for example, you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, a keynote presentation, and the laptop requires audio. You have videos on there, you have music that you want to play. You need to be able to run a cable from your mixer to your laptop in order to fulfill that audio. So what I've found works the best is obviously doing a 100-foot XLR cable. That gives you a little bit more flexibility to be kind of in the back of the room and, have the link to run to the front of the room and with the laptop. Some people prefer to have the laptop in the back of the room. It's just preference, whatever you think is best. A lot of people like to put the microphones up in front of the room so they don't get a lot of static. But like I said, with that Shure frequency finder, I've had no problems at all. And again, we're dealing with rooms here that are 100 people or less, 150 people or less. So you're not going to have a lot of problems with frequency disruption and things like that. Then what you do is you get a little XLR to mini jack adapter that is pretty much your laptop patch for the sound for the videos that'll go to the laptop, and you're able to manage it from your mixer from the back of the room. So part one, that's in terms of equipment, what to use, what's good, what to have on handy. I could also go into wireless mixers and wireless, ideas and things like that, which is actually becoming very popular. So if you visit newer hotels, a lot of the newer hotels have everything that's wireless, usually controlled by a tablet. I mean, the screen they have will come down with the tablet. The actual inputs that they have for the audio system will be auxiliary opposed to the XLR. So the XLR cable is that 3-prong cable. Auxiliary is just your normal headphone jack. And for example, this hotel we just did an event at, we came in and their panel was a headphone jack input, the auxiliary input. So I had to kind of get creative, get a cable that was able to go from my mixer out into their auxiliary panel. And then I was able to take advantage of their sound system. So I hope that was helpful for part one. And let's get into part two, which is, I believe I said it was getting into sort of the lay of the land, getting to know your venue and what you're going to need for that venue so that you have the right equipment. And this can be done easily. I mean, it's just picking up the phone and calling the person, calling the salesperson, or, I've even taken it as far as calling somebody, for example, if it was at a restaurant, I called the restaurant and I had the hostess, go into the room where we were going to do the meeting and just take snapshots of the room so I could visually see what it was like. I asked her to actually go and figure out where the, outlets were. So if I needed to plug in a certain area of the room, I knew where that was. I asked if there was anything that was provided, any audio visual, anything like that. That way I know, coming into this thing, exactly what needs to happen, what equipment I need to bring, and, how to have a successful event. So that's probably one of the easiest things, getting in touch with your hotel staff, getting in touch with people that, that sell you the venue and things like that. Your biggest asset on the ground is going to be the people that are working behind the scenes in the hotels, in the restaurants, the waiters, the bartenders, essentially the hospitality staff, tip them and, make friends with them, because they're going to make your life a whole lot easier. They're going to get you things when you need them. They're going to work with you. They might even let you just borrow things without charging you for them. So things of that nature. So that kind of second part, pretty straightforward. And then part three is sort of orchestrating the room and what to watch for and what to look for. So normally when I come into a room, if it's a hotel venue, I'll just kind of go off the scenario that we do for one of our preview events. So we go into we book a hotel, we go into the hotel. I call the hotel and I figure out what we need. I have all my equipment on hand. I set up a small AV table, kind of back of the room. PA speakers are up, mixers in, everything's ready to go. We already did a sound check, and we're ready to roll. So I have a music playlist on Spotify, which if you're doing events, you do need to get a license to play the music. So definitely look into event music licenses and things like that, so you're able to play the music and not get any trouble. Usually the speaker will have some sort of like an intro song. So you definitely want to have that ready. So that way when they're walking up to the stage or walking up to the front of the room, you play that music. And it's more, doing audio visual is, you could have it timelined out, but it's really more a feel of the room. If people are getting up and they're clapping, just envision what that music would look like, and use your best judgment with what song to play. You're going to have, most popular event songs are, more pop songs, popular songs. I play a lot of Justin Timberlake. Just really poppy songs. And keep an eye on the room. Feel the room. Watch the speaker as they're kind of walking back and forth from the stage, interacting with the audience. If you do have that extra handheld on hand, if the speaker is interacting with the audience, the audience member needs a microphone, go run and grab it to them. If you're using PA speakers, watch when the speaker walks in front of the speaker so that way you don't get any feedback. Be ready to mute out. Be ready to turn the level down. Be ready to turn the gain down. And just pay attention through the meeting. There's been so many occasions where I've hired outside audiovisual companies, and they're just kind of a plug and play model. They're like, all right, we turn the sound on, and that's pretty much all we do. You really have to kind of immerse yourself in the environment and just really, really get in tune and sync with it. So, all right, cool. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that sort of like that short kind of, vision into the audiovisual world. Definitely a basics podcast. But once again, thank you very much, Laura, for having me on. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to just, reach out to the podcast page. And I look forward to doing some more of these in the future. So thanks again very much. Appreciate it.
So, Steve, it's been great to have you with us. We appreciate it. We're going to have you back on more and more podcasts as you continue to develop more and more content for helping Live Out Loud run, not only in our podcasts, but in our events, our 3 Days to Cash, our previews, and outside stages. We appreciate it. Again, you're listening to Laurel's Real Money Talks, where we teach you how to make, keep, and invest money. Depending on what the topics are, always go to AskLaurel.com, put in your name, phone number, and email, and make sure you spell Laurel right, AskLoral.com, and we'll be right back with you. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining Laurel for this segment of Real Money Talks, how to make money, manage money, and invest money. To continue this new conversation and to find free resources to support your wealth creation, visit AskLaurel.com/podcast gifts. That's AskLoral.com/podcast gifts. Thanks for listening and join us again soon. New episodes are released every week.